In the frigid light of early dawn, the icy expanse of the fjord unfurled like a frozen tapestry, its crystalline edges echoing the bittersweet solitude of its inhabitants. The biting wind whispered secrets of ancient grudges and unspoken promises, setting the stage for a tale where human passion intertwined with supernatural destiny. Amidst this breathtaking isolation, Freya stepped gingerly onto the snow-covered path that led to the secluded dwelling of the enigmatic Alpha Nils. Freya had always been drawn to the mysteries nestled in the intersection between the natural and the supernatural, a longing kindled by the memories of her childhood spent listening to legends of shifters and timeless curses. With each deliberate step, she recalled her late mother's voice, recounting tales that blurred the lines between myth and reality. That voice, tender yet urgent, now propelled her forward, her heart heavy with the legacy of the unknown. As the horizon glowed with hints of sunrise, the aura of the fjord's icy solitude seemed to echo a hidden promise of redemption and heartbreak. It was here that fate had decided, in a cruel twist of destiny, that Freya would be entrusted to Niels, a man whose presence was as commanding as the frozen peaks surrounding them, yet as solitary as the winter night. The journey to his dwelling was fraught with uncertainty, each step echoing her inner turmoil about the invitation into his enigmatic world. Inside a modest yet awe-inspiring cabin carved from timber and encased in the region's ice-capped majesty, Nils awaited. Tall and imposing, with eyes like glacial storms and a demeanor that bore the unmistakable chill of isolation, he embodied the legend of the Alpha whose icy exterior belied a heart shattered by previous betrayals and long-held secrets. His presence was magnetic yet cautionary, a force of nature that drew Freya in despite her trepidation. In a dimly lit hall adorned with relics of ancestral power and weathered portraits whispering forgotten family legacies, the two met for the first time. Their eyes locked in a silent battle of fate and suspicion, both aware that the initial encounter was but a precursor to deeper, darker ties that would soon unravel. Nils's voice, when it broke the thick silence, was measured and somber. "You carry the mark of a restless soul, Freya," he intoned, the echo of his words reverberating off the cold stone walls. "I sense within you a yearning for truths long buried beneath layers of ice and history." His words were a revelation, unearthing sentiments that had been carefully locked away, now stirred by the touch of destiny. Freya, equally guarded, replied with a calm yet defiant tone, "I do not seek answers out of mere curiosity but out of necessity. The past, our past, demands reckoning." Her eyes flickered with a mixture of fear, determination, and something deeper, a fragile hope that perhaps in this man with a haunted gaze, she might find the key to unlocking the abyss of her own past. Their conversation wove between guarded introductions and dissonant echoes of shared sorrows. In a world where trust was as rare as warmth in winter, every word they exchanged was laden with the weight of legacy and the promise of uncertain redemption. The cabin, with its imposing architecture and relics of bygone eras, served as the perfect backdrop to a meeting that seemed orchestrated by an unseen hand, one that reveled in paradoxes and the collision of hearts hardened by betrayal and emboldened by hope. Outside, the relentless chill of the fjord juxtaposed sharply with the slow-burning intensity growing within the cabin. The sporadic howling of the wind meshed with the crackle of a fire that seemed desperate to ward off the encroaching cold, much like the flickering emotions that danced between the two protagonists. At the same time, a subtle undercurrent of tension hinted at the complexities of the relationship that was about to unfold. Their dialogue was punctuated by moments of silence where neither could escape the magnetic pull of their intertwined fates. "I have served as the guardian of my family's secret for longer than I can recall," Nils murmured, his gaze drifting to a large ornate mirror whose reflective surface captured not only the dwindling sparks of the fire but fragments of his own tormented past. "The burden of legacy is not easily borne," he continued, his tone layered with regret and defiance. "And today fate has chosen you as the bearer of this fragile truth." His admission, though subdued, hinted at vast reservoirs of grief and duty that pulsed beneath his ice-cold exterior. Freya, with her voice soft but resolute, inquired, "And what if my own secrets clash with those you so fiercely guard? What becomes of us then, when the weight of our hidden truths threatens to consume our fragile flame?" Her question hung in the air like an unspoken challenge, a plea for a connection that transcended the superficialities of circumstance. It was a moment in which vulnerability met defiance, and where the echo of familial betrayal resonated with the pain of unhealed wounds. Their dialogue, laced with tension and layered meanings, was interrupted by the unexpected arrival of a mysterious letter. Delivered by a silent, ghost-like messenger cloaked in the hues of twilight, the sealed envelope bore symbols of an ancient lineage. Nils's hands trembled as he broke the seal, revealing archaic markings and words that seemed to pulse with the vitality of old magic. With each word he deciphered, the chilling air around them grew thicker, as though the very essence of fate was converging upon them. "This is no ordinary message," Nils whispered, his voice low and troubled. "It speaks of a covenant, a promise made long ago by our ancestors. It warns of a betrayal that shall resurface to shatter what remains of our fragile lives." The gravity of the revelation dimmed the warmth of the flickering fire, casting long shadows that mingled with the creeping mist from the fjord. The letter hinted at secrets entombed in the heart of their shared history, truths that could either bind them closer together or drive them apart irrevocably. Freya's heart pounded as the realization of the dangerous legacy set in. This unexpected missive unearthed memories and emotions she had long tried to keep buried. "Who do we trust when every face may hide a dagger?" she asked, her voice trembling between fear and anger. "Must our hearts be encased in ice to survive the storm of deceit that looms over us?" Her inquiry was not just about the external forces but also about the internal demons that threatened to unravel her soul with every beat. As the conversation deepened, layers of mutual respect and old wounds began to interlace, weaving a fragile web of understanding between the two. Nils revealed fragments of his past, a tale of lost love, terrible mistakes, and a descent into darkness that had left him isolated and tormented. His confession, raw and unadorned, was a stark reminder that even the most seemingly impenetrable hearts could be marred by sorrow. Freya, in turn, shared whispers of her own journey, of abandonment, the constant betrayal by those she had trusted, and the relentless pursuit of an elusive truth that had defined her life since childhood. Their admissions merged with the howls of the wind, creating a symphony of despair and fragile hope that filled the cold, cavernous room. With every shared secret, the distance between them diminished, yet the impending threat of betrayal loomed like a specter in the midst of an uncertain truce. In a stirring moment of vulnerability, Nils reached out to gently hold Freya's hand. "Perhaps in our shared pain lies the possibility of redemption," he said earnestly, his eyes glimmering with an unspoken promise of care. The gesture, simple yet laden with meaning, sparked a cascade of emotions in Freya, a connection that transcended the limitations of their haunted pasts. For a fleeting moment, the world outside, its relentless cold and the ancient grudges of nature, seemed to pause. It was as if time itself had conspired to offer them a respite, an ephemeral chance to glimpse a future where the past no longer held sway over their very souls. Their eyes, locked in mutual understanding, reflected dreams of solace and the resolve to unearth the mysteries that bound them together. Yet even as these tender moments of intimacy unfolded, the foreboding message from the ancient letter continued to hover over them like an omen. Its cryptic prophecy promised a future fraught with treacherous challenges, where every choice could echo through generations. As the morning light gradually suffused the room, breaking through the remnants of night with a timid caress, a tense silence enveloped the cabin. The past and the future converged in the present moment, swirling in a dance as intricate and perilous as the path laid out before them. Nils and Freya, drawn together by the threads of fate, braced themselves for the revelations that were yet to come. A journey that would test the limits of their love, forge alliances in the face of danger, and expose the deepest scars hidden behind the facade of icy indifference. Without a word, Freya shifted her gaze back to the rugged window where nature's stark beauty mingled with the foreboding chill. The distant cry of a lone wolf pierced the silence, a haunting reminder of the wild forces that stirred in the depths of the wilderness, a call that resonated with the legacy of her blood and the cursed history of the shifters. Meanwhile, Nils exhaled slowly, the sound mingling with the crackling of the fire, his mind racing with the implications of the ancient letter and the secrets it heralded. The stage was set for a labyrinth of emotions and conflicts yet to be unraveled, where the convergence of supernatural destinies and human frailties would ignite a chain of events capable of shattering even the strongest of hearts. With the message of betrayal looming as heavily as the chill in the air, both understood that the journey ahead would be as treacherous as it was transformative, each step laden with choices that would define their future and forge bonds tempered in the crucible of fate. Tension gripped the room, charged with the promise of imminent danger and the uncertainty of destiny, as the first light of dawn cast a brilliant glow on what was to become a relentless struggle for truth and redemption. In that breathless moment, the promise of revelations that could mend a fractured world mingled with the fear of betrayal yet to come. The winter chill slowly surrendered to the burgeoning warmth of an uneasy alliance, as Freya and Nils ventured deeper into the labyrinth of secrets that had long held both families captive. The early hours of the morning bloomed into a day of discovery and trepidation, with the fjord's icy silence gradually giving way to the murmurs of nature awakening in anticipation. Freya's mind raced with questions about the ancient covenant revealed in the mysterious letter, while Nils, his stoic exterior betraying the weight of old regrets, sought solace in the hope that their shared pain might ultimately herald redemption. After their charged encounter in the cabin, the duo set out on a journey across rugged landscapes that blended the remnants of untamed wilderness with the pulsating echoes of modernity. A road stretched before them, a precarious path of cobblestone and fleeting modernity, and on either side, the dichotomy of urban vibrance and raw, untamed nature painted a surreal portrait of a country steeped in history and mystery. Towering skyscrapers loomed in the distance, their glass facades reflecting the natural beauty of the historic scenery, a constant reminder that the forces of the past and present were forever intertwined. Their travel was punctuated by moments of shared silence and fleeting exchanges, each step along the worn asphalt a brushstroke in the painting of their evolving relationship. Freya's thoughts were a tempest, a swirl of suspicion, longing, and the bittersweet ache of vulnerability. Nils, too, wrestled with memories of anguish that had defined him, each recollection a shard of the icy barrier he had constructed around his soul. Together, they navigated winding trails that led to forgotten ruins and clandestine meeting places, where echoes of ancient rites could still be heard beneath the rustle of autumn leaves. In the heart of a weathered town, where cobbled streets bore the scars of time and legends, they encountered Mara, a woman whose serene beauty and enigmatic air hinted at knowledge beyond mortal realms. Mara was once a trusted confidant of Nils's lineage, now relegated to the fringes of society for her refusal to bury the secrets of her forebears. Her eyes, deep and knowing, regarded them with both caution and an unspoken invitation to delve further into the mystery that bound their destinies. Not many dare to trace these hidden paths, Mara remarked as she led them to a secluded archive hidden within an old, ivy-clad building. The scent of aged paper and lingering incense filled the air, a tangible relic of forgotten ceremonies and promises forged in blood and fire. Her voice was gentle yet possessed an authority that demanded trust, drawing Nils and Freya into a web of clandestine histories and the covert lore of shifters that had been safeguarded for generations. Within the dim light of the archive, ancient tomes and cryptic manuscripts revealed the threads of a family saga interwoven with betrayal and remorse. For Nils, every page was a painful reminder of a lineage steeped in sorrow, of ancestors who had once sacrificed everything for power and redemption. For Freya, these revelations rekindled the embers of hope that her own fragmented past might be pieced together through the shared history of those who had come before her. With each story that unfolded, the lines between myth and truth blurred further, the words of a forgotten era forming a narrative rich in both beauty and despair. As Mara recounted the ancient rites and the binding covenant between the shifters and the guardians of nature, Freya listened with growing unease. "Our fates are sealed by the choices of those who came before us," Mara intoned, her voice carrying the weight of millennia. "The betrayal that haunts your bloodline was sown long ago, and its fruits have ripened into the very essence of your existence." The room fell silent, punctuated only by the soft rustling of aged pages and the measured breathing of those present. In that sacred moment, every whispered legend and every fragment of lost lore converged, offering both a key to the past and a sobering forecast for the future. Nils, his tone tentative yet resolute, inquired, "And if destiny itself is written in these ancient words, do we have the power to change its ending? Or are we forever bound to repeat the same tragic cycle?" His question cut through the stillness, challenging the very notion of fate that had dictated the lives of his ancestors. Freya, though grappling with her own inner doubts, found her voice strengthened by the intense need for clarity. "I believe that within the echo of every betrayal lies a chance for salvation, if only we possess the courage to defy the shackles of our past," she replied, her eyes sparkling with determination and a hint of defiance. Their dialogue, filled with heartfelt revelations and stirring convictions, was momentarily interrupted by a sudden commotion outside the archive. A group of figures, cloaked in dark attire and moving with a stealth reminiscent of shadows, had gathered near the building's threshold. The group's presence was an ominous sign, resonating with the hidden threat that Mara had alluded to, the possibility that ancient adversaries were still at large, their intentions cloaked in deceit. Before either could react further, one of the strangers stepped forward, his presence commanding immediate attention. "Nils, we have been waiting for you," he declared, his tone both accusatory and resolute. The murmurs of the gathered figures swirled around the courtyard like a gathering storm of old vendettas and unresolved scores. Their eyes, filled with a mix of admiration and reproach, were fixed on him, as if their very existence was woven into the fabric of a legacy steeped in betrayal. The confrontation unfolded with a tension that was both palpable and disquieting. "Who are you to summon me?" Nils challenged, his voice steady despite the palpable undercurrent of apprehension. The man's answer was laced with grudging respect and a hint of sorrow. "I am the keeper of old vows, a reminder that every promise has its consequence and every secret its price." His words, simple yet profoundly foreboding, underscored the reality that the past was not a place easily left behind. In a hushed whisper that rippled with menace, one of the cloaked figures intoned, "The covenant must be honored, for any deviation shall awaken the wrath of those long deceased." The implications of her statement sent shivers of dread down Freya's spine, forcing her to confront the possibility that their every choice was under scrutiny by an unforgiving lineage. As the tension escalated, Mara intervened, urging calm. "These are not mere bandits, but keepers of a legacy too heavy to dismiss. Their return is an omen, a reminder that you cannot escape your heritage." Nils's eyes narrowed, his internal struggle evident as he assessed this unexpected confrontation. "If our destiny is preordained by the choices of those who came before, then why should I falter now?" His challenge was not just to these emissaries of a bygone era, but to fate itself, a defiant question that resonated with every pulse of his being. Freya, bolstered by his courage, stepped forward and addressed the mysterious group with a calm intensity. "We will not allow the ghosts of the past to dictate our future. It is time to break free from the chains of ancient betrayals." Amid this charged exchange, the cloaked figures exchanged glances filled with conflicted resignation. Their leader's gaze softened for a fleeting moment, the hardened resolve in his expression giving way to a sorrowful acknowledgement. "Perhaps there is a chance, a slender possibility that the cycle can be broken," he murmured, his words barely audible yet carrying the weight of hard-won experience. The atmosphere shifted imperceptibly. What had begun as a confrontation took on the semblance of a parley between adversaries who might, against all odds, share a common desire for redemption. In the ensuing moments, while the future hung precariously between hope and inevitable despair, Mara guided Nils and Freya away from the assembled group. Their footsteps echoed in the narrow back alleys of the ancient town, where every stone seemed to pulse with memories of lost eras and forgotten promises. As they walked, the city's ambient lights cast elongated shadows that danced upon the walls, ghosts of bygone times whispering secrets to those who dared listen. During a brief respite in a secluded courtyard behind an aged building, Nils and Freya allowed themselves to revisit the conversation that had been abruptly silenced. "The past is a labyrinth," Nils confessed, his voice tinged with both regret and resolve. "Every turn I take leads me to yet another unspeakable truth, another hidden betrayal that has chipped away at the man I once hoped to be." His words resonated with a deep-rooted sorrow, a testament to the scars left by years of internal conflict and external judgment. Freya's eyes, filled with quiet determination, met his. "It is precisely because of those betrayals that we must forge ahead," she said, her tone firm. "Not to repeat the mistakes of our forebears, but to create a future where trust can be rebuilt from the ashes of our past." Her words carried a promise, a vow to herself and to him that redemption was not just a possibility but a destiny they could shape together. In that moment, amidst the lingering tension of ancient grudges and the promise of new beginnings, a bond of fierce determination took root. The conversation, however, was brutally interrupted by a surge of unexpected activity. A sudden commotion reverberated through the narrow streets as news of a disruption in the city spread like wildfire, a disruption that touched on elements of corruption and betrayal within the elite circles of urban society. The entire town seemed to bristle with an undercurrent of unrest, as if the very foundations of its history were rattled by the specter of a forgotten scandal. For Nils, this revelation was a harsh reminder of the intertwined destinies of supernatural legacies and modern human affairs. The streets, once peaceful conduits of memory, now morphed into stages for a drama that threatened to unravel long-held facades of respectability. At a discreet diner nestled in one of the city's winding neighborhoods, where neon signs flickered amidst the slow hum of conversations and clattering cutlery, Nils met with an old contact, a relative who had long abandoned the rigid constraints of their lineage to embrace the chaotic rhythms of modern life. Over coffee that was both bitter and revitalizing, he learned of further betrayals festering within the ranks of those once thought to honor the ancient covenant. "There is treachery at every corner," the contact confided, his voice low, "and the sins of our ancestors are resurfacing to condemn us all." His words, laden with foreboding, underscored the notion that the battle for redemption was not confined solely to ancient rivalries but was being waged in the heart of contemporary society as well. Freya, sitting silently at the table, listened with increasing alarm as snippets of another scandal emerged. Whispers of deals that had been struck behind closed doors, alliances forged on lies, and secrets kept in the depths of the city's underbelly. These revelations, intertwined with the age-old narrative of betrayal and family honor, painted a disquieting picture of a world where every decision could precipitate a cascade of unforeseen consequences. The narrative was no longer solely about ancient magic or cursed legacies. It had become a modern parable of power, redemption, and the enduring struggle against fate. After leaving the diner, the three reunited in the shadow of an abandoned warehouse that served as a clandestine meeting point for those who refused to let the past dictate their future. Here, amidst the interplay of light and shadow, the full extent of the conspiracy began to unravel. Freya learned that a faction within the shifter community had long planned to exploit the secrets of the ancient covenant for personal gain, a betrayal not only of familial honor but of the very essence of their supernatural identity. The realization struck her with a force akin to the crash of distant thunder. The treachery was rooted deeply in the core of their existence, threatening to demolish the delicate structure of trust that had started to build between her and Niels. Facing this new revelation, Nils's voice carried both anguish and defiance. "I thought my isolation would protect me from such treachery, but I see now that even the furthest echoes of our past reach into the present, binding us in chains we never wished for." His confession was punctuated by a pause, a moment of introspection where regret and purpose converged. "I cannot let their ambitions shatter what little hope remains for both our bloodline and the future we dare to envision." Freya reached out, her touch warm and determined. "Then we fight," she asserted, "with every ounce of our strength and every scar we bear from a troubled past. We reclaim our power and redefine our destiny." Their words, spoken in unison against the backdrop of modern urban decay and ancient resentments, ignited a fire of resolve that spread through their veins. It was a declaration, a commitment to dismantle the oppressive legacy of betrayal and rebuild a future that honored both the old ways and the promise of change. The hours that followed were a blur of careful planning and fraught determination. Under a veil of darkness, they conspired with allies who spanned both worlds, the ethereal guardians of old lore and the pragmatic champions of contemporary justice. Every conversation, every hushed detail exchanged under the cover of night, wove together a tapestry of ambition and courage that defied the oppressive weight of their inherited destinies. As the new day neared, the conspirators prepared for a decisive confrontation, a gathering that promised to expose the corrupt underpinnings of the treacherous faction. With hearts steeled against the tide of inevitable opposition, Nils and Freya stood together on the precipice of uncertainty, knowing that their choices in the forthcoming hours would either sever the lingering bonds of a cursed past or reinforce them with fresh suffering. The air itself seemed to vibrate with the intensity of unspoken oaths and the courage of those willing to rise above centuries of despair. At the climax of this clandestine meeting, under the gleam of streetlights that mirrored the stars above, a mutual understanding was forged, a tacit vow between two souls determined to wrest control of their fate from the relentless grasp of time. They pledged to dismantle the conspiracy, piece by piece, beginning with the very roots of the betrayal that had marred both their legacies. Their resolve was palpable, an alchemy of past wounds transmuted into the fuel for a revolution that transcended both ancient prophecies and modern machinations. With the promise of revolution hanging thickly in the night air, and the faint hum of urban life merging with the lingering echo of ancestral chants, their paths converged upon a singular destiny. Every word spoken during that fateful meeting resonated like the toll of a bell, an unmistakable signal that the course of history was once again being written in the blood and tears of those brave enough to defy the odds. In the bittersweet moments before the storm would break, both Freya and Nils felt the unyielding pull of destiny drawing them inexorably towards a reckoning that could either redeem them or shatter them irreparably. As the conspirators dispersed into the labyrinth of the city, each returning to their own shadowed corners to await the dawn of the coming battle, Freya found herself standing alone for a moment, the weight of both hope and impending catastrophe settled upon her shoulders. With her eyes fixed on the horizon where the first hints of dawn merged with the lingering hues of night, she whispered a silent vow, a promise to embrace the tumult of love, betrayal, and redemption regardless of the cost. Every fiber of her being was attuned to the profound truth that the secrets of the past held the power to shape not just one destiny, but the fate of an entire lineage. Thus, with hearts heavy yet determined, and amid the collision of ancient legacies with the modern day, Their journey took an irrevocable turn toward a destiny fraught with peril and possibility. The promise of change dangled in the crisp night air, as the final moments of the meeting faded into the quiet murmurs of a city on edge, leaving behind a resolute echo that would reverberate in every corner of their souls. In the aftermath of the clandestine meeting, a heavy silence settled over the city like a shroud. The tendrils of night were now giving way to the uncertain hues of early morning as Nils, Freya, and their newfound allies retreated to a discreet safehouse tucked away in an unassuming urban quarter. Here, beneath cracked ceilings and peeling paint that bore silent witness to decades of forgotten stories, the trio gathered around a scarred wooden table. Their eyes, still alight with the embers of resistance, reflected a myriad of emotions: fear, hope, and the raw determination to confront a legacy marred by deception and betrayal. As the first tentative rays of sun filtered through grimy windows, Nils broke the silence. "We've seen the threads of treachery woven deeply into our legacy," he murmured, his tone laden with both regret and resolve. "But this is no longer just about ancient promises. It's about reclaiming our future from those who have manipulated every betrayal for their own ends." His eyes swept across the room, meeting the steady gaze of Freya, whose own voice soon joined his proclamation. "I've spent my life haunted by secrets and mistrust," Freya confessed softly, her fingers absently tracing the faded grooves in the tabletop. "Yet, amidst all this darkness, I feel a stirring, an awakening of a strength I never knew I possessed. Perhaps it's not too late to redefine what our destiny means, even if that means challenging centuries of orchestrated deceit." Her words hung in the charged atmosphere, mingling with the stale air of the safe house and echoing the sentiment that had silently united them. A knock at the door startled them, and all eyes turned toward the entrance. Cautiously, one of their allies, a wiry man with sharp features and eyes that missed nothing, opened it to reveal Lydia, a woman whose past was as enigmatic as the conspiracies they now sought to dismantle. Lydia's presence brought an added weight to the room. Known for her unparalleled skill in deciphering ancient symbols and unearthing long-buried familial secrets, she carried with her a weathered leather satchel filled with cryptic documents and relics. "I managed to recover some vital records from an abandoned archive near the waterfront," Lydia announced, her voice a blend of excitement and caution. "They speak of a hidden pact, an undisclosed alliance between factions that have long been at odds within our community. These documents hint at an even deeper betrayal than we ever imagined, a betrayal that may lie at the very heart of our lineage." Nils leaned forward, his gaze sharpened by decades of inner turmoil. "Show us what you found, Lydia." With steady hands, Lydia unfurled a series of yellowed parchment sheets across the table. Intricate symbols and archaic script sprawled across each page, each character imbued with an otherworldly allure that seemed almost to pulsate in the dim light. "This pact," she explained, "was sealed not just between shifters, but with forces that dwelled in the periphery of our world, those who thrived on chaos and harnessed shadow as their ally. The agreement, forged generations ago, promised power and security, but only in return for a terrible price." Freya's eyes narrowed in apprehension. "What kind of price?" she inquired, her voice quivering with a mix of dread and anticipation. Lydia hesitated, as if the answer itself was laden with unbearable weight. "It seems that the price was not just the subjugation of our free will, but also a deliberate choice to forsake a part of our very essence, our capacity for love and trust. In exchange for safeguarding our clan, a sacrifice was made. The very soul of every generation was bound to a fate of eternal coldness, a perpetual isolation that only the most formidable of hearts could withstand." The revelation struck like a thunderbolt. For Nils, whose life had been a ceaseless battle against the encroaching numbness that his lineage imposed upon him, the idea that his own heart might have been cursed by an ancient bargain was both horrifying and liberating. "If this is true," he said quietly, "then our struggle is not solely against the treacherous forces of modern betrayal, but also against an insidious curse that has long defined who we are." A heavy silence fell once more as the three contemplated the ramifications of Lydia's discovery. Freya, driven by a fierce determination, rose from her seat. "We must break this cycle," she declared, her voice resonating with a newfound power. "If our love, our compassion, and our capacity for redemption can be reignited, then perhaps we can finally free ourselves from the chains of this ancestral pact." Her words ignited an unspoken flame of resolve among them, transforming the somber mood into a burgeoning determination. The group agreed to launch a daring operation aimed at infiltrating a long-abandoned estate rumored to house more records of the Cursed Covenant. This sprawling mansion, isolated on the outskirts of a crumbling industrial district, had long been shunned by locals who whispered of strange apparitions and an inexplicable chill that pervaded its halls. Under cover of night, the conspirators, led by Nils and Freya, made their way to the estate. The journey was fraught with peril. Dim streetlights revealed only fleeting glimpses of their path, and shadows lurked in every corner as if the darkness itself sought to impede their progress. Freya's heart pounded not solely from the fear of physical danger, but from the emotional tempest brewing within her. Every step towards the mansion was a step deeper into the labyrinth of her own past, a past marked by secrets, loss, and the elusive hope of redemption. The mansion loomed ahead, its derelict facade a stark reminder of a bygone era. Crumbling turrets and shattered windows bore silent testimony to decay and abandonment. Yet, within its core lay the promise of answers, the key to liberating them from a legacy of sorrow. Nils's instincts, honed by years of navigating treacherous alliances, urged him to remain cautious. "Stay alert," he cautioned in a low voice as they edged closer to the grand entryway, where the echoes of lost time reverberated in the hollow spaces. Inside, the mansion was cloaked in an oppressive gloom that seemed to swallow the light. Dust motes danced in the cold beams of moonlight that broke through cracked ceilings, and every step stirred ancient memories of opulence and subsequent decay. The group moved in a tight formation through corridors lined with faded portraits and relics that whispered forgotten tales. Lydia led the way, her eyes scanning every corner for signs of concealed documents. In one secluded chamber, behind a false wall behind a tattered tapestry, they discovered a hidden study. A massive desk, cluttered with handwritten ledgers and detailed maps, suggested that this room had once been the nerve center of the estate's mysterious operations. Freya's hands trembled as she uncovered a leather-bound journal. Its cover, embossed with symbols reminiscent of those on Lydia's parchments, resonated with the spectral energy that had become all too familiar. Opening the journal, Nils began reading aloud, his voice steady despite the gravity of the revelation. "This document is from one of our ancestors," he pronounced. "It speaks of a ritual that was performed on a night much like this, a binding that was meant to protect our family from external enemies but at a most terrible internal cost. It appears our forebears willingly sacrificed the warmth of their souls for a promise of invincibility, a promise that has led to centuries of detachment and isolation." Each word seemed to throb in the silence, reverberating through the cavernous halls of the mansion and the corridors of their own hearts. Freya stepped closer, her eyes brimming with tears. "But there must be a way to reverse this," she insisted, her voice trembling with both sorrow and fierce hope. "If we can understand the true nature of the sacrifice, perhaps we can reclaim our true selves, our ability to love freely and fiercely." Her declaration was met with a solemn nod from Nils. "That is the true test of our legacy," he replied. "To defy the script written by our ancestors, to rewrite the terms of the curse that has haunted us, and to emerge whole once more." The notion that redemption was possible, though fraught with uncertainties and sacrifices, sparked a palpable vigor among the companions. The night wore on as they scoured the study, piecing together clues from cryptic sketches, faded letters, and the haunting verses penned in the journal. Their collective determination to break the ancient curse rekindled their spirits, transforming the oppressive solitude of the mansion into a sanctuary of possibility. Yet even amidst newfound hope, the omnipresent shadow of betrayal loomed, threatening to shatter their resolve. Unbeknownst to them, a subtle presence had been observing their every move from a concealed niche behind a shattered column. A figure draped in darkness, whose intent was as enigmatic as the curse itself, lingered in the periphery. The air grew inexplicably colder as the intruder watched the group's progress, a silent witness to their quest for liberation. What role this mysterious figure played in the unfolding saga remained uncertain. Perhaps an enemy, perhaps a reluctant guardian of the secret, or even a catalyst meant to test the strength of their determination. In the depths of the study, as the first hints of dawn began to chase away the remaining shadows, Lydia unearthed an inscription on the underside of an ancient desk. It was written in the same archaic hand and hinted at a ritual that could, if performed with pure intent and unyielding courage, sever the binding curse. "The right of reclamation," she whispered, as if fearing that speaking its name might summon the very forces they sought to defy. According to the inscription, the ritual required a rare convergence of natural forces, a moment when the energies of the earth, the moon, and the spirit converge, and the heartfelt sacrifice of a cherished memory to awaken the essence of true redemption. Realizing the magnitude of their discovery, Nils and Freya exchanged a determined glance. "We stand at the crossroads of our fate," Nils declared with unwavering resolve. If we are to reclaim our souls and break free from the shackles of this ancient pact, then we must embrace the right of reclamation, no matter what it demands of us. Freya's voice, soft but resolute, answered him. I'm prepared to surrender that which I hold most dear, the memories of pain that have defined me, in exchange for a chance at true redemption. Her words, imbued with both melancholy and hope, resonated deeply with every soul present. Each person felt the weight of the impending ritual, knowing that the price of change was steep, yet the promise of liberation was even more precious. Their decision set the stage for a moment of profound intimacy with destiny. As the sun's first rays began to pierce the darkness, the group departed the mansion carrying with them the fragile hope of new beginnings and the secrets of a ritual that could forever alter the course of their lives. In that moment of transition from night to day, the past and the future converged, a tapestry of memory, betrayal, and the possibility of an unchained heart. The journey ahead was fraught with uncertainty, and the mystery of the silent observer still hung over them like a specter. Would this enigmatic presence reveal itself as an ally in disguise, or would it thwart their every attempt to rewrite history? With every step, the promise of the right of reclamation loomed as both a beacon of hope and an insurmountable challenge. Amid the silence of the early morning and the pulse of emerging life in the modern city, the resolve of those who longed for a better tomorrow burned brighter than ever. With minds focused on the daunting task ahead and hearts beating in unison with the rhythm of rebirth, they set forth into the awakening day. Their footsteps, echoing in the quiet streets and the corridors of their souls, marked the first stride toward shattering the legacy of cold isolation, a step toward reclaiming not just the lost warmth of their hearts but the very essence of what it meant to love and to live without the shadow of ancient betrayal. Under the veil of a deep, starlit night, the group gathered once more at the precipice of destiny. The rugged outskirts of the urban sprawl gave way to an ancient clearing where the threads of supernatural power coalesced. A place where both the ethereal and the tangible converged in a breathtaking display of natural magnetism. Here, with hearts brimming with defiant hope and souls scarred by generations of betrayal, Nils, Freya, Lydia, and their steadfast allies prepared for the rite of reclamation, a final stand that promised either liberation or irrevocable loss. The clearing, encircled by towering trees whose silhouettes danced against the luminous glow of a full moon, exuded an unmistakable energy. It was as if nature itself had awakened to bear witness to the convergence of ancient magic and modern will. At the center of the clearing, a stone altar lay half buried in moss and lichen, a relic of forgotten rituals and the silent vows of ancestors. The altar pulsed with a low, rhythmic hum, its vibration in sync with the beating hearts of those who dared to challenge the cursed covenant. Nils stepped forward, his eyes reflecting both the icy remnants of his past and the fervent blaze of his resolve. For centuries, our lineage has suffered beneath the weight of a pact forged in desperation, a curse that isolated us even from the warmth of our own hearts, he began, his voice resonating with the gravitas of one who has borne the scars of history. Tonight, we confront the demon within our heritage, a specter of betrayal and regret that has long stifled our capacity for love. His words struck a deep chord in the gathering, reverberating across the clearing and melding with the murmurs of the wind. Freya stepped beside him, her presence both tender and fierce. Every moment of pain, every betrayal etched into the fabric of our being, has led us to this singular instant, she declared, her tone unwavering despite the emotional tempest raging inside her. We are more than the sum of our ancestral missteps. Our souls, scarred as they are, can still rediscover the lost language of redemption. With every ounce of our spirit, we choose to break these chains. This is our moment to reclaim our true selves. Her declaration was met with murmurs of both determination and awe among their allies, who could sense that the impending ritual was a harbinger of unprecedented change. Lydia unfurled the delicate inscription discovered in the hidden study, the cryptic guide to the rite of reclamation. The parchment's time-worn script pulsed under the moon's silver gaze, each symbol a silent promise of renewal if unlocked by hearts unburdened by cynicism. The ritual demands not only a convergence of nature's raw power but also a sacrifice, she intoned, her voice trembling slightly as the burden of the revelation washed over her. It requires that we relinquish the remnants of all that has hindered our hearts, the pain, the grief, every memory that has darkened our capacity for love. Her eyes sought out Freya's, sharing a silent understanding of the cost that must be paid. As the ritual's preparations began in earnest, each participant found themselves drawn into an intimate communion with the forces of nature. Incense, burned from ancient herbs and infused with the essence of wildflowers, sent fragrant tendrils swirling upward, bridging the gap between the earthly and the divine. The congregation formed a deliberate circle around the stone altar, their breaths visible in the crisp night air, mingling with the frosty exhalations of the past and the promise of a warmer, brighter future. Nils produced an amulet, a relic passed down through countless generations, its surface etched with the emblem of their cursed covenant. This amulet, he explained, has long served as a reminder of our fall and as a chain that bound us to despair. Tonight, with the blessing of the ancient energies, we shall shatter this chain. Let it be both a symbol of our suffering and our resolute hope for renewal. One by one, each companion stepped forward to place an item of personal significance, tokens of their anguished pasts and cherished memories, upon the altar. These offerings, born of sacrifice and acceptance, glimmered in the moonlight, forming a mosaic of loss and newfound courage. At the crescendo of this solemn assembly, the first notes of a long-forgotten incantation, whispered through the ages, began to emerge from the group's collective voices. It was a language older than time, each word a call to the elemental spirits that governed both nature and fate. As the incantation swelled, the clearing vibrated with an intensity that stirred leaves, quickened hearts, and summoned spectral forms. The luminous glow emanating from the altar grew brighter, piercing through the nocturnal tapestry, as if heralding the arrival of forces awakened by the ritual. In that critical instant, an unexpected presence broke through the radiant shimmer, a figure cloaked in an aura of both malice and pity. The mysterious observer who had silently trailed their footsteps from the mansion, now stepped forth into the clearing. His appearance was spectral yet undeniably human, his eyes a mirror of ages past. In a voice that was both sorrowful and resolute, he spoke, "You dare challenge the decree that was written in blood and stone? Are you prepared to unbind the wounds of your lineage and embrace an uncertain future?" His question hung in the air, heavy with centuries of burden and the weight of unspoken truths. For a long moment, silence reigned as the gathered souls contemplated the gravity of the question. Then, with unwavering determination, Nils responded, "We have been shackled by the sins of our forebears for far too long. The price we pay is not eternal damnation, but a fleeting moment of torment if it means reclaiming the warmth of our hearts." His words resonated like a clarion call, reinvigorating the resolve of all present. The spectral figure's countenance softened, as if the raw honesty of Nils's declaration cut through layers of bitter regret. "Then you must know," he continued with a voice that trembled between empathy and admonition, "that the true cost of breaking such an ancient curse is not measured merely in loss but in the relinquishing of the certainty you hold dear. To shatter the curse, you must surrender your cherished memories of pain, thus erasing the very experiences that made you who you are." The weight of his words hung like a double-edged sword, promising liberation while threatening the erosion of identity. A profound silence enveloped the clearing as Freya stepped forward, her eyes locked with the enigmatic witness. "Our memories of pain have shaped us, yes," she admitted softly, "but they do not define our future. Redemption is born from the courage to let go, to transform scars into strength, and to find beauty in the act of forgiving ourselves and those who have wronged us." Her voice, both tender and firm, underscored her belief that the ritual was not a call for total erasure of the past, but rather a rebirth, a chance to reinterpret those memories into newfound resilience and hope. The spectral guardian, his expression now a blend of admiration and melancholy, nodded slowly. "Then it is decided," he intoned, stepping aside as if yielding space for the unfolding destiny. "Embrace your sacrifice and the curse shall be undone. But know this, your journey will be forever altered, for the act of reclamation grants freedom at a price that only time can unveil." With that final pronouncement he faded into the periphery, leaving a resonant silence in his wake. As the incantation reached its zenith, the energies in the clearing roiled with a transcendent brilliance. The stone altar cracked open as if it were a barrier between two worlds, releasing a surge of raw, pulsating light that bathed the assembly in iridescent hues. In that moment, the offerings placed on the altar, each symbol of a sorrow endured, transformed into ephemeral motes of radiance. The collective act of sacrifice transcended its cost, heralding a metamorphosis that defied the oppressive isolation of their ancestry. Nils, with a steady hand, grasped the once cursed amulet as Freya joined him. Their combined will and shared longing for renewal created a vortex of energy that seemed to ripple through the very fabric of time. In the swirling luminescence, their memories, the battles fought, the betrayals suffered, and the love nurtured in spite of all odds, merged into a singular force that shattered the ancient pact. The palpable surge of newfound warmth coursed through their veins, melting away decades of frigid solitude and replacing it with an incandescent vitality that promised a future unburdened by the ghosts of the past. In the ethereal glow, faces once marred by despair now shone with the quiet assurance of redemption. Even Lydia, ever the skeptic, felt tears streaming down her cheeks as the heavy cloak of generational sorrow was lifted, replaced by the liberating embrace of possibility. The transformation was not instantaneous but a profound awakening, a promise that the legacy of betrayal could be rewritten into a legacy of resilience and love. As the radiant energy subsided, the clearing was transformed. The once ominous altar was now a symbol of hope, a beacon that illuminated not just the night but the hearts of all who had gathered there. The ancient curse had been broken, its bitter chains shattered by the combined courage of those who dared to stand against fate. In its place, an invigorating warmth replaced the eternal chill, promising that love, despite its trials, could indeed conquer even the most entrenched darkness. Yet, amid the celebration of liberation, an unforeseen twist unfolded. In the fading light, as the remnants of magical luminescence dissolved into the night, Freya discovered a long-hidden truth concealed within the very fibers of her existence. A quiet revelation, triggered by the energy that had coursed through her, began to etch its narrative onto her soul. The memories that were sacrificed did not vanish completely, they transformed. Within their dissolution lay not an erasure of the past, but the gentle emergence of truth, a revelation that she was more entwined with the ancient legacy than she had ever dared to believe. A hidden chapter from her family's annals, a testament of forbidden love and clandestine alliances, came to light. Freya's lineage, it turned out, held the key to an even deeper redemption. Her bloodline was interwoven with threads of mysticism and sacrifice, a mosaic that not only bore the curse of isolation but also the promise of unparalleled healing. The realization struck her with the force of destiny. The very pain she had relinquished contained the seed of unconditional compassion, a power capable of mending not just her own heart, but the fractured bonds between families long divided by mistrust and prejudice. Nils, too, felt the full weight of this unforeseen truth. His eyes, ever guarded yet now filled with a dawning hope, met Freya's as if acknowledging that their union was not merely a rebellion against ancient curses but the genesis of a new era, a time when the wounds of the past could be healed by the salve of understanding and unconditional acceptance. In that silent communion, the couple vowed to honor both the cost and the gift of redemption, knowing that their future, though shadowed by uncertainty, was brightened by the promise of forgiveness and a shared, unyielding love. The night's transformative magic, the echoes of incantations, and the sacrifice of painful memories had not only dismantled an ancient curse, they had paved the way for a rebirth of hope across the entire community of shifters. The alliance of those once divided, bound by betrayal and isolation, now found a common purpose in the promise of renewal. The winds, which had once carried the chill of endless sorrow, now murmured tales of a future where legacy and destiny could be reclaimed and reshaped. In the final moments of the ritual, as the first fragile notes of dawn began to tint the horizon with warmth, Nils and Freya stood side by side. Their hands, still entwined, were a testament to the power of human connection, a defiant, tender declaration that even in the face of ancient curses, love endures and transforms. Every heart present in that clearing, every soul that had embraced the rite of reclamation, now pulsed with the bright anticipation of a tomorrow free from the shackles of inherited despair. Thus, with the silent promise of a new dawn echoing through the clearing and the iridescent shimmer of hope lighting their path, the bonds of blood and betrayal were irrevocably severed. The legacy of cold isolation was replaced by a vibrant tapestry of compassion, resilience, and unyielding love, a truth that, though born of sacrifice, would now steer the fate of generations to come. Under the glow of a blossoming dawn that defied the lingering hues of night, the remnants of a fractured past gathered for the ultimate reckoning. The city, stretching into a horizon that shimmered with the promise of both renewal and mystery, bore silent witness to the culmination of a journey that had intertwined ancient legacies with a modern struggle for redemption. In a secluded penthouse perched high above the urban sprawl, Nils, Freya, Lydia, and their steadfast allies reconvened to confront the final echoes of betrayal that had haunted their bloodlines. The room, furnished with a blend of contemporary elegance and nostalgic relics from eras long past, radiated an atmosphere thick with anticipation, a liminal space where the final truths were destined to unfurl. The soft murmur of the early morning breeze mingled with the distant hum of the sleeping city below as Freya took a measured breath. "After everything we've endured," she began, her voice both resolute and tender, I can't help but wonder if our sacrifices have been in vain or if perhaps this is merely the threshold to a liberation we've dreamed of for too long. Her eyes, reflecting years of solitude, flickered with the intensity of one who had traversed the darkest corridors of history only to find a glimmer of light at its end. Nils, whose once impenetrable demeanor had softened in the wake of shared vulnerability, stepped closer. Every wound we carry, every betrayal etched into our story, has led us to this singular moment, he said with quiet conviction. It is not just a battle to break the ancient curse. This is our stand against the destiny that has restrained us for generations. His declaration resonated like a heartbeat in the stillness, a unison of voices that had long been suppressed by the icy grip of inherited fate. The final pieces of the puzzle had been gathered over a series of clandestine meetings and perilous escapades. Lydia's careful translations of worn manuscripts, the recovered relics that illuminated forbidden rituals, and the spectral witnesses' cryptic words that hinted at a legacy deeper and more confounding than anyone could have surmised. Now, gathered in the penthouse's intimate confines, the allies prepared to face the astonishing truth, a revelation that promised to sever the chains of the past, but not without demanding a toll that none could predict. Lydia unfurled a brittle scroll upon an ornate, mahogany table. These documents, she said softly, reveal the final layer of our ancestral covenant, a pact forged not merely out of the desire for invincibility, but as a desperate measure to contain a power far greater than any of us imagined. Her tone was laced with awe and trepidation, as if the very words inscribed within demanded reverence. It appears that, in the depths of our lineage, there exists an elemental force, a dormant power intertwined with the spirit of nature and life itself. This force, though veiled in shadows of betrayal, is also our salvation. As the weight of her revelation settled among them, Nils walked over to the expansive window that overlooked the awakening city. With eyes fixed on the horizon, he murmured, "Our ancestors made a choice to sacrifice the warmth of their souls to command this force, believing that by locking it away they would preserve our legacy. But in doing so, they also imprisoned their capacity for profound compassion and connection." His gaze shifted to Freya, whose own journey had been a constant push against the icy determinism of fate. "Perhaps," he continued, "our struggle has been to reclaim not just our freedom, but the very essence of who we are, our humanity." Freya's lips curved into a mixture of sorrow and resolute hope. "All this time," she whispered, "I felt that an unyielding loneliness was my inheritance, that the curse was a solitary confinement of the soul. Now, I see that it was a prison designed to hold back a power that could heal not only our hearts but the rift between all those scarred by betrayal." The sentiment hung between them like a delicate promise, fragile yet imbued with the possibility of an entirely new beginning. A sudden tremor, a faint, almost imperceptible vibration, swept through the building, drawing every eye to the digital clock on the wall. It signaled the precise moment that the ancient convergence was due to occur. Outside, the urban skyline was tinged with the rosy glow of dawn, merging the modern landscape with echoes of forgotten legends. Every heartbeat, every measured breath, became a silent countdown to the climax of their arduous journey. In the midst of this charged stillness, a hidden door creaked open in the far corner of the penthouse. Emerging from the shadows was the spectral guardian they had encountered during the rite of reclamation, a figure whose presence had oscillated between menace and reluctant benevolence. His visage, now more defined in the soft light, bore the marks of timeless sorrow tempered by an enduring wisdom. "You stand at the crossroads of destiny," he intoned, his voice both gentle and imperious. "The power that has been locked away by your ancestors awaits release. But know this, the moment of liberation carries with it a revelation that could reshape everything you believe in." The room fell into a heavy silence as the guardian approached a large, intricately carved pedestal positioned at the center of a circular chamber revealed by the open door. Upon the pedestal rested an object that pulsed with an inner luminescence, a crystalline orb multifaceted and alive with a kaleidoscope of colors that shifted in tune with unseen energies. The orb was the repository of that ancient elemental force. It held within its depths the combined memories, sorrows, triumphs, and unfulfilled longings of an entire lineage. Lydia carefully stepped forward and, with reverence, placed her hand upon the smooth surface of the orb. "This is the moment we have longed for," she whispered. "If we unleash its power, the curse will break. Yet there is a risk. The truth that will emerge may not be as we expect." Her words, though soft, reverberated in the still air, stirring emotions that lay deep within every heart present. Nils and Freya exchanged one last, determined glance before advancing together toward the orb. In unison, they channeled the collective will of their gathered kin, a potent blend of determination, love, and the courage to rewrite a destiny that had been imposed upon them since time immemorial. The spectral guardian began to recite an incantation, his tone measured, imbued with authority and grief. As the words rolled off his tongue, the orb pulsed brighter, casting prismatic reflections upon their faces. The intensity of light grew with each passing second, as if the orb were awakening to the call of its long-suppressed legacy. In that climactic moment, the crystalline core of the orb shattered into countless scintillating fragments, each a mirror of the soul's hidden depths. The shattering did not herald destruction but transformation. A radiant wave of energy burst forth, enveloping the room in an incandescent glow that seemed to dissolve the boundaries of time and space. Every fragment spun outward, carrying with it echoes of memories once locked away, memories of heartache and of hope, of battles fought and bonds forged. The combined force of their collective sacrifices, tender vulnerabilities, and unyielding love surged into the space, filling every crevice with an overwhelming sense of renewal. Amidst the brilliance, an unexpected figure materialized, a presence that sent shockwaves through the assembled allies. Emerging from the luminous vortex was a being who appeared both human and ethereal, clothed in an aura of gentle radiance. Freya's eyes widened in disbelief as she recognized features reminiscent of a long-lost relative, a figure whose whispered legend had always been more myth than memory. "My dear," the figure said in a voice as soft and resonant as a lullaby, "I have watched over you for generations, safeguarding the secret of your lineage. I am the living embodiment of our family's forgotten promise, the promise that love would prevail even when our hearts were encased in ice." The revelation struck like lightning, a twist so profound that it rendered all prior notions of fate and legacy mutable. The mysterious relative, once spoken of in hushed tones as a fabled guardian of ancient truth, now stood revealed. "I was hidden away," the figure continued, "to protect the very essence of our kind. In your blood, dear Freya, lies the power to awaken hearts and to merge the cold fragments of isolation into a single, unyielding warmth. Nils, your journey was always destined to intersect with hers, for together you embody the synthesis of tradition and transformation." The room trembled with emotion as the figure's words sank in. What had been perceived as a relentless curse was, in truth, a paradoxical gift, a crucible forged in the fires of loss that, when tempered by the strength of love and shared redemption, transformed into the very power to heal and unite. In that breathtaking instant, every long-held fear, every legacy of betrayal, was reinterpreted as a vital step toward an empowered future. The spectral guardian, his features softened by the revelation, bowed his head in quiet acceptance. "The truth is now unveiled," he said, "and the burdens of the past are transmuted into hope for tomorrow." Freya, her voice steady with renewed strength, addressed the assembly. "Our journey was never about wallowing in our cursed history, it was about reclaiming the innate brilliance that resides within us. Today, we accept that our scars were not marks of eternal isolation but the very imprints of a passion and resilience that can redefine our destiny." Nils, his normally guarded eyes now mirroring the unyielding light of new understanding, added, "Let this revelation be our beacon. Through forgiveness, unity, and the courage to embrace our true selves, we can transform even the deepest betrayal into the roots of our salvation." As the luminous remnants of the orb's power slowly dissipated into the air, the penthouse filled with quiet ecstasy and gentle sobs of relief. The final act of transformation had bridged the chasm between the old and the new, reuniting families once torn apart by suspicion and the harsh edicts of fate. Each soul in that room understood, with a clarity born of both pain and triumph, that redemption had always been a choice, a living testament to the endurance of love over even the most relentless of curses. In the soft aftermath, as the city below began to stir awake beneath a sky streaked with the pastel tones of early day, the allies dispersed with hearts unburdened and spirits soaring free. The revelations that had emerged that morning, unexpected, jarring, and profound, became the cornerstone of a new era. In a final embrace of shared destiny, Nils and Freya, once shaped by betrayal and loneliness, now stood as the living embodiment of hope, heralding a future where the wounds of yesterday could be healed by the compassion of today. Outside, amid the awakening urban landscape and the gentle rustle of leaves kissed by the morning breeze, the legacy of their past transformed into a narrative of reinvention. The ancient curse, once a chain of cold despair, had dissolved into a mosaic of resilience and rebirth, a story of extraordinary love that transcended the boundaries of time. In that transcendent moment, every whispered legend, every secret that had once threatened to shatter them, was reimagined as an essential verse in the endless song of the human heart. Thus, with the promise of a bright new dawn reflecting off glass towers and in the hopeful eyes of kindred spirits, the saga reached its final, unexpected crescendo, an affirmation that even in the darkest of legacies, the power to transform, forgive, and unite is an eternal flame burning ever bright.